I'm Tony Keith, the Christmas Light Guy. In this tutorial, I'm going to show you how I built my glow spinner out of spare parts that I had just laying around. First, I'm going to give you a bit of history on my spinner. The first year of running a display, I built a mega tree and 8 arches. So I had some pixel mounting strips, some plex tubing, and some pixels left over. So I built my first version of the spinner, and here it is. It's about 36 inches in diameter, has 10 arms each with 9 pixels for a total of 90 pixels. It's not a high density prop by any means, but it was a nice starter prop. After this season, I had an idea to create what I call a glow spinner. What is a glow spinner? A glow spinner has a ring around the spinner arms that glows similar to a plex arch. Let's take a closer look at the glow ring. I started by drilling holes on the backside of the plex tubing for the pixels about 2.5 inches apart and ended up with 52 pixels in the glow ring. Then I wired the pixels on the glow ring to the end of the last pixel on the spinner. Don't worry, you'll get to see the glow spinner in action, but first I'm going to show you how to create a custom model for this prop in xLights, then create submodels, something I really like to do, then finally create some interesting effects. Let's get started. Opening up xLights, first I will use a built-in spinner model and then make a custom model. Select the spinner icon, place it, expand it to make it bigger. Then I will update the number of arms to 10, lights to 9, and the hollow percentage to about 2. Then I will update the start channel to 1. Save it. Now we have an xLights spinner model that matches my first version of the spinner. Next I will define the submodels. Scroll down to the submodels menu. Click to open the dialog. Expand the dialog out. I will add a submodel and rename it spokes. Next I will add 10 rows for the spokes submodel definitions. Define the first spoke and the second spoke. Now I'll fast forward to the last spoke. Once I'm finished, use the arrow keys, highlight and use the arrow keys to validate and verify that you've done a correct job on your submodels. Add another submodel and rename it rings. I will add 9 rows for the rings submodel definitions. I'm not going to bore you, so I'll fast forward through creating the ring definitions. Once I'm finished, I will verify by highlighting the node ranges and using the arrow keys to move up and down and verify it visually that everything is correct. Everything is correct. Save and move over to the Sequencer tab. I've already created a 30-second sequence with timing marks every 5 seconds, as you can see here. I'm going to drop the bars effect onto the spinner, but first expand the spinner to see the spokes and rings submodel, then drop on a bars effect. Next, let's open up the model preview window so we can see what the effect looks like on the spinner. And it'll look something like this. I will enable the output, but let me start the recording of the spinner. Give me just a second. Alright, let's enable the output. And it looks something like this. Next, I'm going to move the bars effect to the spokes submodels. It looks like this. And then to the rings. And it looks like this. Now I'm going to play with the effect settings. Turn off 3D, change the direction, change the number of cycles. Everything seems to be configured and working properly for the basic spinner. Next, I will show you how to convert the built-in spinner to a custom model. We need to add pixels around the edge of the spinner and the pixel tubing to make it a glow spinner. First, export the spinner to a custom model using the Export to Custom xLights model menu. I'm going to name it Glow Spinner. I've already done this before, that's why it already exists. Next, I will import that model and draw it next to the other spinner. Once you export and then import, you have the ability to update or edit the custom model by clicking Model Data. I'm going to add the pixels around the edge. Double click and enter the node numbers for the pixels. I need to add 52 pixels. I'm just eyeballing it to make sure it looks like a circle. I'm going to stop here and come back when I'm almost finished. I'm back and almost finished. I'm at 139 here. I will put 140 here, 141 here, and 142 about here. I've went all the way around the outline of the spinner and defined the nodes. I have added the 52 pixels to the glow ring. Now I have my custom model defined and created. I will go ahead and close it. Oops, sorry. I want to save it, not close it. Say OK. If we look at the model, it contains the submodels for spokes and rings from the original spinner. Now I will create the submodel for the ring or circle I just defined. Click on the submodels to open the dialog. Click Add and rename the submodel to Circle. The node range will be from 91 to 142. I can now visually verify the nodes I defined are the circle pixels on the spinner. Click OK. Now the new custom model is ready to use. I could delete the original model, or I can replace a model with the custom model. I will show you how to replace the original model with the custom model. Use the option Replace a model with this model. Make sure you select the new custom model definition. I've done that. Now I will select Spinner. It's going to ask to update the start channel. In this case, I'll answer yes, and it will be replaced. To verify it worked, click on the spinner model to expand and show the submodels. Notice the circle submodel is there, so the original model was replaced with the new custom model for the glow spinner. I will move the model to the center, and let's move over to the Sequencer tab. Now in the Sequencer tab, I will open up the Models Preview so we can see the model and compare it to the real prop. Here's what the model looks like in xLights. Give me a second and I will start the video on the prop. Okay, now let's enable the output and we can see that it's working. So I'm going to expand the spinner to see the submodels. I've got to click on the spinner. Now I'm going to move the bars down to the spokes and we see the spokes are working. Move it to the rings and the rings are working. Next I'm going to add a single strand to the circle. Drop the single strand onto the circle. Change the rings back to bars. And we get a nice effect with a ring moving around the outside of the circle. I'm going to stop here and I'm going to go off and create some interesting effects, and I'll be back shortly. I'm back and I've created some interesting effects on my glow spinner that I'd like to share with you. First, I will open up the models preview so we can see the xLights model and also compare it to the actual prop. I will also start the video on the glow spinner prop. Give me just a second to start the video. Okay, let's take a look at the first effect. I call it explosion. The explosion is a nice effect. It's a ring around and it looks like it's exploding. Let's move over to the next one, which I call rainbow. Rainbow is another interesting effect. I like this one also. My next effect is called rotation. I really like this one. Next one's called explosion 2, slightly different than the first one, but still a nice effect. Next is called spirals. Cool effect. And last but not least, I call this one swirl. The more I watched this, the more I kind of liked it. It's a really interesting effect of going swirling in and out. As you can see, I've easily created some interesting effects by applying different built-in effects on the 3 submodels of my glow spinner. In this tutorial, I explained and showed you what I refer to as a glow spinner, then how to create a custom model with submodels in xLights for that spinner prop, and finally how to create some interesting effects using that model and submodel. I really like the concept of my glow spinner. I wasn't completely happy with the light diffusion in the glow ring, so I plan on increasing the number of pixels in the glow ring, and hopefully that will provide better diffusion. I also plan on adding a glow ring around my 36-inch Boscoyo spinner. Perhaps these will become tutorials in the future. I hope you've enjoyed this tutorial and learned something new from it. If you did and would like to see more tutorials like this, please subscribe to my channel, The Christmas Light Guy.